In 1995, Jay-Z, Damon Dash, and Kareem Burke founded Rockefeller Records. In 2008, Roc Nation was formed from what once was Rockefeller.
Turn the music up in the headphones.
The label grew fast, and Jay-Z had eyes on expanding into everything. Full-service talent agency, clothing line, touring, music school, philanthropy, sports, and greeting card company. The first big move of expansion was to jump into sports agency marketing and management. They help make athletes into global rock stars.
Dreamed about it since I was 10 years old.
Today's guest, Michele Rinchiuso, is the VP of Operations at Roc Nation. Based out of a London office and focused on the off-the-field marketing of the professional footballers in Roc Nation's portfolio. If you happen to take a look, Roc Nation's portfolio of professional footballers is some of the biggest names in global sports. It's amazing. Michele is fascinating, and I'm thrilled to get to know him. You will be too. Hey, Michele, how are you doing today?
Hey, Brian, I'm very good. Thank you very much. How are you?
I am great. I am super excited to talk to you. As we were just talking beforehand, you came highly recommended from former guest Ishri Anand, who is a good friend of the show. And as soon as she said, I have a friend and VP of operations for Roc Nation, I think would be great. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. Let's do it. So thank you so much for joining me today.
No, thank you very much for your time. I mean, Ishwin is an impressive person. So I was really, really grateful and actually really pleased when she recommended me. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So you played professional football primarily in Germany, and now you are on the side where you're marketing athletes and dealing directly with them. How much did that experience for you, being a professional footballer, just help you pivot to your current career? Were there certain things that just made it work really well and seamlessly for you?
So definitely it shaped me. I mean, I was trying to become a pro footballer at a level where actually my clients are right now. And lucky me, I never made it to that level. I was earning my living a little bit with that. And on that journey, I saw a lot of, let's say, more downs and ups, which actually helped me to understand the scope of what football can be. So definitely it helped me to understand the business side of things much better.
Yeah. I've interviewed a lot of professional athletes over my career in the media, and most of them have this singular focus on their playing career. They're not thinking about what comes next. They're focused on training, they're focused on traveling, their contracts, all those kind of things. For you, when did you hit that moment where you started to think about your post-playing days career, and how did you find this fit for yourself?
Well, I think I have to give credit to my family, because my parents, they are workers, very humble people, and they were always saying like, well, we support you with your football career, but very important is that you don't neglect your studies and your education. So as much as I want to become a top footballer, I always try to educate myself and then to finish my A-levels, et cetera, et cetera. So that was already given very young at my career.
Yeah, exactly. So 7 years at Puma after you finished up your professional playing career, before joining Roc Nation, as you look back at that transition from professional athlete to professional sports marketer, were there moments of doubt, or did you feel like this is something you felt confident you could really dive into and you were ready to perform at that level as well?
Well, I think I would lie if I said I was always confident. I think especially when you start a new journey and with no experience when I started at Puma, and I'm still very grateful for the experience because they gave me so much responsibility at a very young age. I was struggling so many times during the journey, yeah. But I think the more we struggle on the way, actually the more experience we gain at some point and the more confident we become ultimately, right? Is we should not see like the end goal ahead of us. We should rather enjoy the journey. And that's what I've been trying to be positive about it, like trying to not look back. It's like, oh, damn it, what did I do here? Rather than like, oh, what can I learn from that? So definitely I was struggling a couple of times. I still struggle, of course. But the good thing is I always try to see positive and then try to move forward.
So a lot of people in our audience would probably be surprised to hear. They're like, here's a charismatic, good-looking professional football player who struggled getting started. So that's humanizing. That makes everybody feel connected to you and anybody else, and makes it feel normal to them as well. What were some of those struggles you had for getting started? What were some of those things that stood out to you as like, wow, this is harder than I thought it would be?
First of all, thank you very much for being the charming. I really appreciate it.
Charming, good looking. There's a theme here.
So what were the struggles when I was starting? I mean, obviously, of course, you come into, and that was probably the only positive side here when I started. I knew the football landscape pretty well, right? But when you come in at a time, and that's actually one of probably the biggest struggles at the beginning, I was thrown into the international headquarter, and I was confronted with English. At the time, I was quite okay with English, but it's different to have a normal conversation with friends where you can do a lot of mistakes over talking to clients, talking to brands, talking to professionals. And I mean, I still do a lot of mistakes with my languages, but I would say I'm fairly more confident because I have it in my daily routine, right? I'm talking much more English nowadays in comparison to at that time. So I felt intimidated actually talking to people in English at that time. And probably worst experience, one of my teammates or, mates at the time was Scottish. And he had a very, very Scottish accent.
Yeah.
So I was struggling understanding him. But a friend of mine was next to me. He explained it to me. He's like, no worries, you get there. And
Yeah.
now this Scottish person is actually a dear friend, and I understand it much better.
That's hilarious. My wife's company is owned by a Scottish firm, and her boss is Scottish, and she's always doing the same thing. She's like, I think I know what he said, but I'm not 100% sure. So
Exactly the same, I can tell you.
we all deal with it. It's hilarious. Okay, so one of the things I noticed about when you transitioned to Puma, and you grew quickly there, you went from junior manager to senior manager pretty fast, which is a good compliment to you. But one of the things you took on as you grew was more of the negotiation side. You were negotiating deals and sponsorship deals between athletes and brand, obviously. Negotiation is something people struggle with. And we all do it. We all do it every day, whether we realize or not. What are some of those key tenets you've learned as you've gotten deeper into your career of how to make a good negotiation happen? What's your process?
I was lucky enough when I was trying to become a pro footballer to often actually negotiate for myself. So my contracts actually, when I was sitting in front of a sports director, talking to him about my conditions, what I would like to have and not, what is important to me and not, that helped me quite a lot because again, in football, everyone is looking at their own parameters, right? They're always trying to get the best deal for themselves. And what I learned is always be fair, be transparent, because people start appreciating it even more. So what did I learn? What do I appreciate is when people are honest to me. So detach yourself from emotions. Don't be offended if people trying, again, getting the best deal out of it, because it's never personal. Yeah, it's a business. And I think these are the two most important points. Detach yourself from emotions and don't take it personal.
That's so important because I do think a lot of us take things personally when we're in any kind of a negotiation. If you can separate yourself from that and view it as a negotiation, as a business transaction, it can be a little bit easier. You can take it a lot less personally. And I like that you're talking about being fair and transparent too, because then everybody comes out of it feeling good too. I mean, you want both sides to win in some degree, right?
Exactly. It should be always a win-win instead of like a win-loss. And even if you look at it often, if it's really heating up and emotional, sometimes you feel like, oh, that's a loss. Yeah, it's not, nobody is winning here. So why actually continue that way? That's why sometimes I reset, like, okay, let's give it some time to breathe, come back after a week or whatever it is, and then let's sit down again and be transparent. And so far, it worked pretty well, I can tell.
Yeah, I've heard people say things like, if both parties are a little bit upset, then that's a good deal. And I'm like, no, we can get to a point where everybody's happy. Like, you want to move forward with a good vibe between the two partners rather than some starting out in a negative standpoint. So I love your perspective there. I think that's important to think that win-win does not mean losing. That means everybody wins. That's good. We want that. At Puma, you also played a role in identifying young next generation talent. That makes perfect sense for Puma to align with. And I think that's super cool. Is that something that came instinctually to you where you could see certain things and identify within as a former player? Or was that something that there was more of a science to, that there were certain attributes you were looking for? How does that go with the talent discovery side?
That's a very good question. I mean, when I started, obviously, and Puma was just about to take off, which was quite nice with the former, or with the now still current CEO. And we said for us, it's very important to build actually the sports marketing portfolio bottom up. And you need to have the next generation, because of course it's nice to have those established big players, but let's be honest. I mean, the next generation is going to be the future and being there in long term. And you want to build relationships long term. That's always what I'm saying to everyone. So when we recruited, we looked at, okay, who are the future talents in the respective territories? And I wasn't only in charge of a certain country, I was in charge of, let's say, the global recruitment. So important to me was, of course, skills. I mean, which player brings which skill set. And then second, very important to me is the attitude. Yeah, when we sat down with the agents or the parents, and especially with the parents, we made it very clear that for us, it's always a family aspect. We want athletes to join a family and not just a brand where they can get a lot of money, especially with so much money involved nowadays. Yeah, we don't want to have greedy, bad people around us. And I made
Yeah.
it very clear. I rather stepped away of players when I felt there was a toxic environment. I said, like, listen, that doesn't work for us. Yeah. So we missed out maybe on a few players. I could name, of course, a couple of them. But I tell you, at the end of the day, it always served the best cause or our best cause at Puma. So it depends really.
Yeah, but I love that long-term perspective too, is that, you want to build that long-term relationship. And it sounds like from everything I've read on you and a lot of the different people, comments on you, is that you have always had a focus on that long-term relationship building, which I think is fundamental in life, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Let's switch to Roc Nation a little bit. This is really cool, going from an iconic brand like Puma to an iconic agency like Roc Nation. What's been that biggest difference going from the brand side to the agency side? Has it been like a completely fundamental change for you?
Definitely it was. Maybe from the work style perspective. Maybe just to mention as well, when I was at Puma, my again coming to the long-term vision, you just said my vision was in the way how I was also hopefully perceived in our team. I wanted to grow like long-term in at Puma and becoming actually the one below our CEO and driving the entire sports marketing, legal, and license business. And I always said it to my former boss actually as well, and he knew that. It's like, listen, I want to have your chair at some point. And he looked at me, it's like, no problem, just work hard, continue
Yeah.
your path, and it will happen at some point. Like, okay, cool. That in between things change, and we know how it is in life, things can change quite quickly. I have been working then obviously, or I was working with my now business partner and boss, Mike Yomark, for almost 2 years from a Roc Nation perspective. When they come over to London on Romelu Lukaku and further clients, and we came into a really good groove, right? And at some point, it just made sense to jump and to pursue another career path. So if I have to compare Puma and Roc Nation, I would say Puma was really down to sports marketing, whereby Roc Nation now I was given a much broader scope of work and much more responsibilities. Yeah, I grow here as a human being and in my career much broader than I could have probably done at Puma.
That's really cool. You said in there that, you looked at your boss and said, that's where I want to be. And you were very transparent about it, which I think is funny. Are you a
Yes.
are you a goal oriented person? Like when you were playing, did you say like, this is where I want to be? And when you're working, you're like, this is where I want to get to. Does that help you having that broader, bigger goal?
I'm very ambitious. That's it. And I always said that nobody's going to outperform me. When I'm setting a goal, I kind of like work really hard and I'm going to be committed to achieve that goal. But and the good thing is I'm not that stubborn to say I don't allow myself some flexibilities here and there because you don't enjoy the ride, right? If you just like, oh, I want to go there and I only going to go for that one goal, then you lose sight and you lose all the adventures and the fun part of the journey. So I always set certain goals, but I allow myself to enjoy the ride and to experience much more than the only vertical probably can give and offer.
I love that. So you talked about being broader now, where you were very focused in sports marketing at Puma, and now as the VP of operations, you have a bit of a broader lens. How would you describe it? How would you describe the differences? What are the key tasks you have now, and how is this role kind of defined for you?
I think the easiest to explain, and when people ask me that question, is I can see I'm more like a general manager and being really in charge of the London operation or the international operation in London. So that includes obviously commercial sales side of things. That includes the marketing, the social digital side of things. That also includes the football side of things. I'm more involved in rugby and cricket as well now from our side. So basically, I make sure that our business is running smoothly on a day to day, and together with my business partner Michael, we are setting the strategy moving forward. And well, look obviously on the mechanics like the financial side, et cetera, et cetera. So if you ask me what I'm doing every day, it's quite a challenge because it varies completely
Yeah,
from
yeah.
day to day, different days every day, but it's much broader And to make it sound much easier, it's like a GM, yeah, for like a major company, so to speak.
Yeah, you have your hands in just about everything and
Correct.
overseeing so many different parts and pieces. And now you're telling Jay-Z, I'm coming for your job.
Well, then I would need to start to rap, right? That would be very
I would love
expensive.
to see it. Let's make it
Oh,
happen.
oh, trust me, I think not many people would like to hear it.
Oh, I think I would. So last year, I love the fact it's very clear that on the Puma side and the sports marketing side, you really had to be focused on how your brand was being associated with these athletes. And now it's like you just widen out that lens. You just have so much more you have to worry about of your athletes on a lot of different fronts as you're talking about. So you clearly have your hands in a lot of things. Last year, Roc Nation hired FA certified agent Alan Redmond as head of football and you as the VP of operations. Would you call this kind of the holistic approach of saying on the field, off the field, we're going to make sure our athletes have full coverage?
When we spoke about me coming over, Michael and me, we obviously looked and reassessed what we have in London. And clearly, which stood out for me and him, it was we needed to make some changes here. So Alan was a dear friend of mine. I've been working with him for the past 10 years, and I recommended him and said, look, we need to get him because he is the exact right person, having the right values, the right DNA, the right work ethic, and I trust him to 100%. So him coming with me was actually my holy grail, my masterpiece, so to speak. So
Yeah.
to your point, yeah, there was actually the last missing piece to get a 360 approach, as we call it, like the on pitch and the
Yeah.
off pitch. So yeah, it was important
That's
to me
right.
to have him with me.
Oh yeah, it gives you so much faith and trust to know that you have somebody that you're aligned with philosophically, you work well together. It gives a lot more confidence. To that
Yeah.
front, if you're managing all these different parts and pieces, clearly you're not doing it yourself. You have a team. Well, how would you describe your leadership style, your management style? How do you like to get everybody working?
Well, let's put it that way. I always say a brand stands and falls with the people working for it, right? So when I'm looking at recruiting people, I always look at their work style, their commitment, and what kind of human being they are. Because I always say you can teach people everything. People can learn everything. If it takes a bit longer or not that long, that depends really on let's say on the commitment. But at the end
Yeah.
of the day, if they're good human beings, yeah, and if they feel committed to you, they will always give 100%. So my leadership style is really about being humble, keep your head down, work hard, yeah, and you will ultimately get there. So I trust people. Once I trust someone, you have my 100% support and do whatever you need to do. I provide you with a frame and you can come up with the best solutions, what you feel is right. Yeah, enjoy the ride, have fun, try and fail forward, as I always say. Yeah, and then learn from the experience and yeah, let's grow together.
I love that. Now I want to come work for Roc Nation in London.
Please come.
You'll see an application. No, my bosses are probably listening. I shouldn't say that out loud. Okay, so I'm always curious too. When you sign on a new client, somebody new comes in, you guys have recruited them, you brought them into the Roc Nation fold. What's that like at the beginning? Did you spend a lot of time just kind of getting to know each other, or like how does it kind of develop and build from there?
Well, I think it's with everything, and again, we start with an athlete being a human, right? A human being is when we recruit someone is really deciding to come on board. I hope we did already a couple of things right in the process, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we sit down, and it's never about us. It's always about the client or the athlete or the human being. We sit down and ask him, what is your interest? What are you interested in? What is your aspiration? What do you want to achieve? It's never about us, right? Because we're also individual. What I like might not fit actually you. What does you fit doesn't fit anyone else. So for us, it's about getting to know the client better to understand what is his or her priority and then execute against that, what we achieve, what we want to achieve together. So it takes a lot of time, but again,
Yeah.
it's all long term. And we want to work more boutique and exclusive. We don't want to have too many because then you lose this personal note and touch. So yeah, that's why we invest a lot of time in getting to know our clients much better, especially in the beginning.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you have trust with your staff. How hard is it to build trust with a client too? Because I would imagine for a lot of athletes, they're used to people trying to take from them or ask for things or want things. And you're trying to build a relationship, and trust is a huge part of that. Are there certain things you have to do and just be patient to kind of develop that trust? And we have a lot of people in our audience that are, working with athletes and trying to build relationships. Like, how have you started to go about, like, I don't know, just building trust with athletes so that they know and can believe in your process?
Yeah. So what we do, and that's what we're always telling all of our clients when they come on board, we have like an onboarding where we bring we call it A team. It's never about one person. So for instance, I know that the traditional agencies, they always bring one person, they have only one dedicated person. We are the complete opposite of that. We bring our A team and we introduce our A team to our clients. And then all our subject matter experts, as we name them, they have access to our athletes because, again, I don't need to talk about social digital with my client when I know I have an expert here who can go in the weeds and in and out, right? So we want to we do hopefully make them feel comfortable with our people here on board. And again, it comes really down to the people working for the brand, right? If we feel there's a toxic person, then we need to probably make some changes. But so far, I can say we have a great team, and all of them are really committed to what we want to achieve here. And all our clients so far feel very well and committed as well. That's good.
It's great. You build a team that you believe in and trust that are subject matter experts, and you trust them to be with your clients, develop trust and build this whole unit working together. And it starts to really all fit together and work. It's brilliant. So
Yeah.
I personally think football players are a marketer's dream come true. It's not like in American football where they're covered with helmets and pads. It's not like in a lot of other sports where it just doesn't connect quite as well. I think football players have to be a dream come true. I mean, the obvious connection, Roc Nation, entertainment, music, but like, how do you look at your players and say, I'm going to make you a rock star? Like, what's kind of your process for saying, like, I know we can maximize this? Are there certain things you try to accomplish?
I mean, quite frankly, if you look at our European portfolio, I call it like that now. I mean, every footballer likes music and wants to be a musician.
Yeah.
And somehow our musicians always like to be sportsmen, right? Or sportswomen. So it's kind
so
of like
true.
that's a natural synergy that can be created here as a natural like flow, right? So
Yeah.
that's why it's a no-brainer. It's easy for us because our portfolio in the US with all our musicians, our talents and artists, they ultimately come over here to Europe and then they want to go to see games. I mean, I remember, I think Rihanna going to an Arsenal game at the time. Yeah.
Oh,
Or I
it's
know Jay
great.
was trying a couple of times to come over to Europe and to watch games. And he is
Yeah.
so much more involved now with football, I can tell you. So it's a natural for us to obviously build a bridge and to bring them over and to connect them. And I can tell even one of our youngsters and top athletes are also connected to US talents. Yeah, they talk to each other. They're like, oh, sharing experiences. What do you think? How's it with you? How's in the US versus how's in Europe? So
Yeah.
that's, of course, we try to build bridges to bring them together. Yeah, because that's all like, if you look at Roc Nation, I mean, we're a global brand. We're not that big, but we're still, as a company and the name, big, right?
Oh, very big. To me, it screams out global brand, and it's clear that Roc Nation is investing in the international and global scene, which is, I mean, where you can really start to flex your muscles. There's a lot going on in the world of sports marketing. It feels like there's been a lot of sea changes, like fundamentally different changes. And I mean, we can lift them all off here, but we really don't need to. One that always strikes me is the new NFT phenomenon. What's your take on the new market? Is that here to stay? Is that a really cool, great opportunity, or is it a passing fad? Like, I'm not sure what I think. So I'd love to hear from you. What do you think about this whole NFT thing?
It's actually funny because I think in February, March, when it kind of like kicked off, wasn't it? Was it with LeBron, the
Yeah.
first one being like
Mm-hmm.
investing into that? I was investing a little bit of time into that. I know our chief digital officer also invested a lot of time in that. It is a great opportunity of obviously for athletes to monetize again their assets, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's sustainable for me personally because I think nobody really knows where this can go to. Yeah, I think nobody really knows what to do with it. I think right now it's a trend. I believe in 10 years time or 5 years time, it's going to be gone again.
I kind of feel the same way, but I'm always hesitant to think, is that just me talking as a 45-year-old guy and that young people are way into it? It's going to make me sound old, but I kind of feel the same way. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the legs are for this. Are there certain
Yeah.
other things that are happening in sports marketing right now that are piquing your interest, or certain things that you're keeping an eye on?
Well, I think there's so much happening, especially I think the way how the broadcasting is changing, right? I think that is quite interesting to see Whereas like Facebook and all those traditional new social platforms, are they investing more and more money into that to gain more or attract more people? Is a good question mark. Or the TikToks nowadays. I mean, when TikTok kicked off last year, I personally, of course, jumped on it and invested time, because whenever there's something new, I want to know about it. I want to know what is it able to do, what can it, what can't it do. And for me now, and it's actually funny because I had a conversation with Kevin De Bruyne, one of our clients, recently about
pretty
it.
impressive client.
And pretty impressive, and pretty amazing
Very
human
impressive.
being.
Yeah.
And,
really? Yeah, I'm sure.
And I told him, like, listen, TikTok, is that something for you? He's like, Michele, let's look at it realistic. I'm 30 years old.
Right.
And it's funny because I thought the same. Yeah, I felt exactly the same. But when I look at the demographic, it's not only Gen Z. Yeah, it's also, I think, the mid-20s until the mid-30s, like being really big on it. Right. So that proves me wrong. Again, I'm just also maybe not the target consumer here, but those trends are interesting.
Yeah, and it's funny when we're talking about staffing. I've recently hired 4 new people onto our staff, and one of my, and they'll probably listen to this, but one of my goals is like I wanted to hire some younger staff members because they know this audience so well. It's like I can't be the expert of everything. I want some people that grew up with this and really understand it and can say, here's what we can do with TikTok and here's how we can make it really work. And I might not have that expertise, and that's okay. Like letting go a little bit and hiring the right people that can be your subject matter experts is important, right?
Absolutely, 100%. And that's what I'm saying. And then you just confirmed it. Having the right people for the right topic is so critically important, right? Otherwise, I don't know everything. Clearly not. I'm never the smartest person in the room.
Right.
And I don't want to be, because then I learn from others. I want to learn from experts, actually, what is it all about? And how can we maximize the opportunity for our clients? Again, that's an added value for our clients in the future. That's just TikTok, and there's so many more out there, I would say.
Right. I wish I knew that when I was younger getting started. I always felt like I had to know everything. And so I forced myself into a lot of positions that I maybe wasn't the expert in. And now it's like, I'm totally okay not being the expert and to delegate and to let other people be super smart. And I wish I had learned that earlier. So congratulations to you for knowing that already. You have a quote. I loved this. You have a quote on your LinkedIn page. It says, "The challenge of the unknown future is much more exciting than the stories of the accomplished past." I love that. I will probably steal it and pretend that I came up with it at some point. But why was this so important? Why does this align so much with your personality? And why was this important for you to highlight?
First of all, please take it. It's exciting for everyone.
Yes.
Why is it so important to me? I think that describes really me and my approach to life. If we look back, I mean, it's a nice memory. It's nice talking about it, but I'm very much into the present moment. Yeah. And if I look back and I'm always thinking like, oh, what could have done better? Maybe this and that. Then I never enjoy the moment. Yeah. And the present. And if you look at it, I mean, the best things are happening right now, right? I mean, that's what I can influence. So I know there's so much more out there which I can explore, and I'm a very adventurous person. So I love to go to very exotic places and just to live it like a local person, because that is ultimately which makes us grow. I always say the best teacher in life is travel. And that's why I try to live every day being in the moment and just enjoy whatever happens in that moment.
Dude, I want to hang out with you. You are impressive. This is great. I love that. I love this. Like, you have such a positive attitude. Like, I'm just sitting here smiling on the other side of the. This is great. Okay, we'll finish up with this because I know you have work to get back to. This has been an awesome conversation. I've enjoyed it so much. I read a multitude of people giving you recommendations and referrals through your LinkedIn profile, just people saying nice things about you. And there were 2 phrases that really stood out to me because they were repeated consistently: that you were a great communicator and that you're a positive individual. Obviously, everybody listening to this episode can feel the positivity, which is awesome. And the great communication, it's clear and transparent and fair, and you hear these trends. But isn't that, those 2 things, being a great communicator and being positive, isn't that like half the battle? Like, isn't that just everybody starting out, if they can just say, I'm going to bring a good attitude, I'm going to communicate transparently, like, doesn't that already put them in a really good position?
Well, I hope it's genuine. I mean, that's the most important thing. You should not do it and also not saying all those those words just for the sake of trying to influence or manipulate someone. You need to truly mean it. And I was raised that way, in being very honest, transparent, and yeah, and fair to everyone. And just enjoy, because you don't know what happens tomorrow. Everything could be over, and I know that's kind of like a platitude, and people are like, oh, that it sounds so, as it's like a broken record. But I truly try to live it that way, because again, being happy is so much better than being miserable, right?
Yes.
And I think if you look at it, the world we're in, and COVID should have told a lot of people, we should just enjoy our life. I mean, look, I think everything was set upside down, right? What if we approach life with positivity and help each other? I think this little place here would be a much nicer and better place. So 100%, if you generally mean it.
Michele, this is awesome. I've so enjoyed this conversation. I'm so glad we finally got able to speak to each other and learn. Your English is better than mine, so it's super impressive.
let's see.
I think this is a great fit for you at Roc Nation, and it's awesome to see the international portfolio just continue to grow. So congratulations on everything, and thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us today.
Thank you very much for having me. I really, really enjoyed it. And I'm still improving my English, by the way.
I don't see where you need to improve. It sounds fantastic. I mean, you should teach my kids. Thank you so much. It was awesome.
Thank you.